There's a term that's flying around when discussing the Russia-Ukraine conflict from the Russian side. The term is Novorossiya. It means New Russia, and it's a term that Russia and Russian-aligned media have been using to talk about occupied Ukrainian territory in the south of the country, what I refer to in my videos as the southern oblasts, along the DLZK front, the Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, Kherson front. Oblasts, by the way, meaning just province, but in a Slavic cultural term. But here's the part that's panicking Western media and allowing them to instill panic in their citizenry using a spin. Novorossiya has also been used to refer to more than just the southern oblasts. It also refers to the whole south in some cases, including oblasts Russia does not currently hold, such as Mykolaiv and Odessa, and oblasts that Russia almost completely don't hold, like Kharkiv in the northeast. Now, the Western powers and the media apparatus in these countries a lot of the time will say this is clear proof of unacceptable Russian expansionist ambitions. They're super evil. They just want to invade. It's crazy. It's mad. Don't worry about our colonial past. Don't worry that we've invaded the most countries in the world absolutely uncontested. Don't worry about that. Let's focus on Russia and what they could be doing in the future. What their words are saying they will do in the future, right? It betrays, according to Western media, how Russia wants to take more of Ukraine and they don't want peace at all. They're so evil, especially Putin, right? But let's analyze the situation. I'm not pro-Russian, by the way, but I want to help you understand the news and the reality without the spin, the stupid spin that everything goes through. BBC yesterday a few days ago actually, was talking about Israel-Palestine and saying what's happening in Israel was referred to as the other side of the front or the other front line. Excuse me? Anyway, back to this topic. Ukraine and Russia are neighbors. That was an example of spin, by the way. Sorry, let's go back to this. The balance of power clearly favors Russia in the conflict in Eastern Europe. And the only way Ukraine has managed to last this long is twofold. There's two reasons. Number one, Western Europe and America have stepped in to support them. Number two, because Russia's government made the strategic decision not to overcommit to win against Ukraine at all costs, especially when Russia recalculated that, whoa, NATO's stepped in indirectly, yes, not directly, but they've stepped in. We need to recalculate. We need to scale back some of our war goals. We're going to fail completely if we try to go for our initial war goals. Now, recognizing that indirect NATO support for Ukraine would mean a lot more casualties and equipment losses on the Russian side for an effective success at the initial war goals, Russia moved the conflict into a different phase. They switched it into an attritional war state, keeping it simmering rather than heating it to full temperature and overcommitting to huge troop movements like they tried at the start of the conflict. They realized that it's going to take too much. We're going to break ourselves trying to deal with Ukraine backed up by NATO. Now, despite Russia making it clear that they are open to peace right now, over and over again, there's overtures, there's calls that we are open to peace. Come sit down, let's talk. Ukraine has, though, thus far refused to sit down and start negotiating from the Russian position. I'm not a Russian spin master, right? I'm saying Ukraine's not willing to start from the Russian position. Even Ukraine will agree with that. I'm not saying anything that no one will agree with in that regard. Now, in geopolitics and conflict, I want you to understand something. There's some harsh truths to consider. The side that is doing better in terms of their war goals and other factors such as economy and finances and civil stability, that's the side that's doing better, that's the side that can dictate the terms of the war. Now, Russia controls 19% of Ukraine. The Ukrainian economy has all but collapsed. The Ukrainian citizenry, well, half of it, the men, are either trying to flee to countries in the rest of Europe, sorry, I'm hiccuping, or into Russia, or they're trying to they're trying to dodge the draft, or they're being sent onto the front lines into the meat grinder that is the conflict in Eastern Europe. There's little to no hope of Ukraine regaining their lost territory. Crimea and the territories in the Donbass, the Donetsk basin, that's what it stands for. There's almost no chance of regaining that territory unless Russia decides one day to just disband their armies and pull back. Good luck with making that a reality. Furthermore, the US is actually pulling back its support for Ukraine and making what little support they are willing to give conditional on EU financing. So under Trump, America has basically switched into a sort of a merchant of death, right? I'm going to sell you the weapons, okay? I'm not going to support you selflessly. I've not got a vested interest in this except as a business transaction. Out of the deal, baby. It's a good deal for us to keep supporting the Ukraine. Anyway, European financing is paying for American weapons to head to the Ukrainian front lines. That's a fact. So with Russia clearly in the advantage, it makes geostrategic sense for them to expect peace negotiations to begin on their terms, right? Yet Ukraine is not willing to come to the table with that. Instead, they demand above their pay grade, or they demand above their geostrategic realities on the ground. You know, if I'm losing an arm wrestle, and they say, you know, the money you've bet, okay, just before you're about to lose, just give me half the money. I'll forgive the rest of the bet. And you say, no, I want you to give me double what you promised in this bet. You'd be like, what? You're losing though. What kind of negotiation is that? You know, the geostrategic realities on the ground show that Russia's winning. So why would Ukraine not be willing to bargain based on the practicalities, the realities on the ground? Well, I've got an answer. Because the Western powers embolden Ukraine. We'll give you storm shadows. We'll give you air defenses. We'll give you hundreds of millions in military aid and equipment, and we'll make sure to stand by your side and hold your hand on every, diplomatic scene in the land, in the Western world. We'll take many photos. Volodymyr Zelensky, come to Paris, come to London, come to wherever, right? Come to Berlin. We'll host you. You can open your wallet. We'll pour some in, and then you'll make your next trip to the next European country with your wallet open again, right? We're with you. Heck, we'll pay America to give you more equipment. Just don't give up the fight with Russia, Ukraine. Just don't give up the fight with Russia, because then who will delay Russia and be our punching bag to buy us time to re-up? Who will be our heroes of Europe if you guys give up? Right? We need you. We need you to be the heroes, the selfless heroes of Europe. Don't give up. Slava Ukraine, Wakanda forever. Remember? We got you, bro. We'll support you from back there. We'll support you. No, we're troops. Don't be silly. British soldiers fighting Russians. You know how deadly they are. Well, you do know how deadly they are. But we're willing to fight. We're willing to fight to the last Ukrainian man standing. Wakanda forever. Wakanda forever. The truth is, by not approaching the situation based on what's practical, what's pragmatic, Ukraine pushes Russia into a position where they feel they have two options. Russia does have two options. They can either back down, or they can keep the fight simmering, hoping eventually that the Ukrainian front line collapses, and in the breakthrough, they can take even more territory, making it profitable, you could say, making it worth it to keep the fight going. And therefore, Russia, potentially, is preparing people on both sides of the border for a significant border shift by talking about Novorossiya, talking about defending the Russian-speaking people, which is a lot more than what's just Russian territory. It's a lot of Ukraine, right? Who knows? We may see within a decade Ukraine lose access to the Black Sea, lose access to Mykolaiv, lose access to Odessa, lose everything east of the Dnipro River. And then Kiev would not be in the center of Ukraine. It would be on the river, and the other side is Russia, right? And Ukraine would become a rump state, where the territory they hold is currently just Western Ukraine. They might even have to relocate their capital to Lviv, because the capital on the border, is peak times in the hood. And so talking about Novorossiya makes sense, not because Russia is rampantly expansionist, but because in the absence of reasonable negotiations, they might decide, in for a penny, in for a pound, but convert the currency into rubles. We've committed so much that if they aren't going to negotiate reasonably, we'll not stop till we take much more. I'm not for that. I'm not approving that. I'm just telling you that's what's happening, for better or worse. And I'll keep you guys posted on the news and the analysis, unbiased and without the Western spin. It's not about taking sides. It's about understanding first, then fine.